Well, it has been an interesting day if you are in the Tesla world, and it's been an interesting day if you're interested in the markets, and it was particularly interesting day if you were a Nvidia. If you have stock in Nvidia, or you're following what's happening with Nvidia. But let's start here. Let's start with Tesla. Let's start and say that Omar got his version of 12.5.3. And he says it's the best yet. But then Omar always says that, right?
Well, I hope it is the best yet.
Yeah.
And I hope it always is.
So he's got it on 12. He's got it on hardware 4. It's obviously not on hardware 3 yet, but he says it's really outstanding. Obviously, I only have hardware 3, so we don't have it yet. I know you don't have it yet. But in addition to 12.5.3 being out today, we also have ASS out today. Lots and lots of videos of people using ASS. You were just watching one a minute ago. So talk to us about the actual smart summons being used in a Costco parking lot.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, seriously. So it's interesting. I'm not quite sure if actual smart summon came out on its own update.
I think so.
You think so? Because I thought it was part of 12.5.3.
Yeah, I'm not 100% clear on that, but I actually thought it was part of a larger non FSD update, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if it is part of 12.5.3, then that's exciting because it's actual smart summon starting to roll out right now to some hardware 3 vehicles.
Yeah.
So seen some of that. So that's cool. And yeah, I literally right now am watching it as we're speaking. This AI driver, it's in a Costco parking lot. There's a lot going on here, and it seems to be handling it pretty well.
Okay.
There's a lot of different obstacles going on. It's a parking lot at Costco. You
Yeah.
go in, there's people walking on the street. There's cars going everywhere. A truck's not parked all the way in, so cars can have to wait. But it's and it's backing out too.
Yeah.
But I mean, so this is cool and all with the Costco parking lot, but we've seen FSD. I mean, it's obviously a different element when you don't see someone in the driver's seat. It's like, oh,
Yes.
fine.
Yes. Yes.
But we've seen it maneuver around like a Costco parking lot before. What we saw for the first time today was another AI driver video where he showed the Tesla doing a three point turn.
Yeah.
That I thought was really exciting.
Yes.
It was,
So this obviously includes reverse. I don't know, it was one of his videos. I'm not sure whose video it was, but we're not supposed to be using a smart summon or what's the other, what do they call it? The other direction.
Banish.
We're not supposed to be using it other than in parking lots and not on streets. But somebody was running some video today on a public street with a turn circle. What do you call it?
The roundabout.
A roundabout. Yeah.
So that was in a parking lot technically.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
in a parking lot. I see.
Yeah, that was like a shopping plaza that kind of just had. Yeah.
I see. All right. So, but in general, the first question that came to my mind as I'm watching all this is if the car can do a short trip in a parking lot at low speeds with lots and lots and lots of obstacles and all kinds of things going on without a driver in the driver's seat, well, how close must we be to a vehicle that doesn't need or require anybody in it ever?
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the main question because when I tend to take over, it's in parking lots.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yes.
Like I don't ever take over unless I finally get into a parking lot. So that makes this extremely exciting. Now, uh, you mentioned or I mentioned, but you were referring to Banish. Banish is not part of this. This is just actual smart summon right now. So there's no Banish yet. I was just talking to Omar about it. But presumably that's going to come in one of these updates as this goes wide. Uh, but I mean, and there's also right now you have to hold down the button
Oh,
or hold down the screen for it to come to you.
uh-huh.
There's also, you can see in the code that there's, a progress to get to where, there's a validation steps, and eventually it'll be where you don't have to do that. You can just call it, and it'll come to you. So it's exciting. I mean, it's been quite the year, and sometimes I think we gotta like take a step back and not take all this for granted, because we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Ashok and Elon going on the first 12 FSD 12 ride, end-to-end neural net ride that we all saw.
Right.
FSD 12 finally went to end users in January, I think. And from there, we've evolved to end-to-end neural nets for the vehicle minus the highway. We have gone to FSD hands-free. Now we've got smart summon, and it's just gotten better and better. So it's all coming to a point, and that point is 1010, and it's just getting exciting. It's getting really exciting, and it's almost like we're there. But the funniest thing is when we're there, it's it's just the commencement. It's the beginning at that point.
So I have done, I've lost count now and I haven't gone to any in several years, at least 3 or 4 years. But over my career, I went to something over and actually showed in 260 trade shows on 3 different continents, no, 4 different continents. I've been to trade shows. I love trade shows, but there's something about a trade show that gets your focus on your product line or whatever it is you're working on, whatever you're developing on. And it's things that you could never have done in 5 months. All of a sudden you can do them in 2 months because it's got to be ready for the show. I have a suspicion based on a little of our knowledge of Elon Musk and the way that he works, that his crew right now is under immense pressure to have this thing be as close to perfect as it can possibly be by 1010.
Yeah, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about 1010. You know, I think I have two different thoughts. Okay. On the one hand, we all know about the supposed Burbank, um, what's the word? Lease, rental, reservation
Right.
I mean, is it considered a studio? Is that what you would call it?
Studio, yeah,
Uh,
the big backlot. Mhm.
yeah. So it's big, right? Or at least it's like several, it's like 50 acres, 100 acres, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Disneyland's 100 acres. It might be bigger than that. Yeah.
yeah. So my skeptical thought, let me just get that out there right now, is that maybe that's not actually for 1010. Maybe that's more for them just testing,
Oh,
right? To have a safe place to test, to have a place where they can test without, eyes, public eyes. I could be wrong. I mean,
yeah.
now I'm saying this out loud. Let me debunk my own thought here. Isn't it reserved for 1010? Like, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. We don't know what we don't know. So it's all speculation. But put that to the side, because I just always like to think about the devil's advocate, or where could this be wrong, or where could we be misreading something? Let's say that that's not the case, and that this is going to show us, demos of things. I have a feeling if that's why they're renting that out, and they are using that for 1010, that is the intention. I have a feeling this will be the most polished Tesla demo event we've ever seen. I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but
Yeah.
I just feel like this is going to be one where it's going to be the biggest middle finger to everybody Elon could give. And if that's the case, I think they want to make sure that it is flawless. They don't want to have another Cybertruck moment, even though that made it go viral.
Yeah.
This isn't something where you need a viral moment like that. This is about safety. This isn't just, oh, window broke. This is this has to be flawless.
And
But
and Elon has said it's the hardest thing that humans have ever tried to do. He's heard from how many people saying that it could never be done. So when you're suggesting that this would be a time when he would want to take a pretty big victory lap, that just puts all that much more pressure on having it really ready. I mean, just really ready to go, not just almost ready, but as close as humanly possible to be able to say, all right, everybody, starting tomorrow, you can drive from the back seat, or starting in 3 weeks, or whatever it is. We've got a little more testing to go, but from where we're sitting right now, it's ready to go. So that would certainly, anything less than that won't make it as much of that middle finger idea that you're suggesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, I hate to overhype something or an
Yeah,
event, but could you just imagine that? Okay, they unveiled the robo taxi, right? And the way they unveil it is everybody's, in a stadium or something, and it comes out on its own, right? It arrives on its own.
right.
They talk about the specs, what it's gonna be like, how you enter it, all the little nuances. And then all of a sudden, they say, but we always have to make sure we can do this scale, whatever. And all of a sudden, like 50 of them just roll up. And then they say, but this isn't just going to be for the road taxi. We're going to have an Airbnb model. And all of a sudden, you see a S, an X, a 3, a Y all roll up, a Cybertruck roll up. All of them roll up on their own. And then they all drive away on their own. And then all of a sudden, he makes some announcement, and here comes the new vehicles. They roll up, right? Like how cool would that be? Like, it's all just happening on its own. You're banishing them away. They're rolling up. I mean, I don't know. You could do some cool things.
Well, if you want to have some even more fun with it, since it's Burbank, why couldn't you have each one of those vehicles that's pulling up would have a celebrity in the front seat,
Ooh.
and you're opening the door and these celebrities are getting out.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun.
I mean, it is, Hollywood after, well, it's Burbank, but Burbank and Hollywood are right next to each other. So anything is possible in the land of Oz here.
Yeah.
So all right, so we both agree that it would be phenomenal if the hardware was actually working by 10/10, and that we had some kind of an event that is just over the top crazy, even if it turns out that you're right and it's not Burbank, wherever it is, that it's over the top, that it's amazing. It's just it's the world changer. It's the thing that really puts it over the into a new era. What else do you think about 10/10? If you got thoughts about, I mean, we want to see an app, obviously. Uh, are there other ideas, other things going on in your brain regarding that day?
Yeah, so I have so many thoughts. Let me say this: advanced, not financial advice. Just some guy on YouTube saying his wildest dreams. Um, I think first of all, the stock market today is. I don't think it's accurate. I think today is a fake out. I think this is a lot of noise. I think keep an eye out what happens by the end of the week. Um,
To the overall,
Tesla
or
to the overall market, but also Tesla specifically. But I mean, I think that with the overall market, I think today was a sell off because it was the first day of September and everyone's spooked out about September. Watch September be a really good month. Watch it.
okay.
Um, but
We'll
with
talk,
Tesla
we'll
specific,
talk more about that in a minute.
with Tesla specifically, um, nobody today reported about actual smart summon on any media. Not that I expect them to. The world doesn't know. The market doesn't know. And this is a big deal because 1010 is coming fast. I I don't want to say I would bet, but I'm highly confident that the stock's going to run going to 1010. We're going to start seeing a lot of things slip, I think, like leak out.
Yeah,
It's just too much.
yeah,
It's just too big of an area. It's an open space. It's going to be hard to conceal everything. So I think you're going to start seeing some things leak out. You're going to see actual smart summon. That's going to start to go viral, I bet, especially as it goes out. And people are going to, it just takes one person on TikTok to be like, oh my God, look at this Tesla driving on its own. Um,
Oh yeah,
And
well,
that
everybody, it's going to be like the Cybertruck with the Smart Summit. Now that it works, you're going to have people when they get it, they're going to want to go out and show their neighbor, and they're going to want to, go out and do it in its Costco parking lot. And
yeah,
there's going to be all kinds of people. Oh, the car is going. Yeah, there's no driver in that car. So yeah, it's going to be. It should be pretty crazy.
exactly. Um, but I just think that we are going to see a big run up in the stock here. But I just put it out there just because why not? That we would be at 300 by Halloween.
Right.
Uh, that's pretty bold, Cole. When we're sitting here at 209, we're down in the aftermarket right now. But is it a bold call? I don't think so.
No, because
I
I'm at 265 by 1010. So
Exactly. So I have a feeling that at 1010, after they do all their unveils and everything, that he'll say something like, we plan on having the first Tesla robotaxi network up and running in a few cities in the first quarter, first half of next year.
mhm,
He'll keep it vague enough, but I think that's what they're going to say,
mhm.
or he'll say, like, right now, the way we're tracking, we anticipate in the first half of next year. And that will be a big deal because that's not a year away. That's months away.
Now that's robotaxi, but what about unsupervised? Do you believe that some unsupervised will happen before robotaxi happens, or do you believe it happens on the same day?
No, we'll have unsupervised at the end of this year for sure.
Have unsupervised, but it won't be the day after 1010. It'll
No.
be something else that happens between then and the end of the year. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be at the end of the year.
Now, did you see this morning's report with regard to Australia, where Tesla had, put out their suggestion, their recommendation for how the I'm forgetting the word they used, the method for overseeing of the automated driving, which we've been talking about. I think you and I talked about it last Tuesday. I've been talking about a lot this last week because I can't imagine it without some kind of remote, not driver, but remote oversight. And so there's all,
Why?
huh?
Why?
Because I think it's not that I don't think that the car will be able to do 99.99% of all the things that it needs to do, but I also know that things break, things go wrong, humans get involved and mess things up, including sabotage. There's all kinds of possibilities. I think that the consumer sitting in the robotaxi will want a way to be able to get to a remote person, just like Cadillac has, for various things, whether it's the car making a problem or whether it's the person having a problem, because there's no driver in there to assist a person that's having a problem. So I think that there will be the need for a way to get in touch with a remote, God creature, through the app or through the entertainment center. But that thing that was sent out to Australia this morning suggests to me that Tesla believes, at least for a while, they're going to need to have the ability to take over remotely.
Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think that's how it's going to work out. Um, I think that you'll have like a customer service potentially. I think I've said this on your channel before, where if the vehicle gets a flat tire, if for some reason the door just won't open, like something like that. Uh, if you get into the car and there's like vomit, where you can report to that. But I think a lot of these things will be done uh, through an interface. I don't think it'll be via communicating to a human. Um,
Well, you'll want Grok to do as much as they can, but then there's a point at which Grok probably can't do it. So,
well, but even then, like it's like if something happens, if you have a flat tire, if there's damage in the car when you get into it, you can just touch the screen and report it. I do not think that you will be adjusting the way the car drives remotely.
okay.
I
Do you think, okay, so you don't think there'll be any remote activity. So then to clap back at you, why do you think Tesla put out this very sophisticated letter to the Australian authorities with regard to the potential for third-party remote operators and this type of thing.
I think you're misreading what remote operator means.
Oh, okay.
I think I would be a remote operator, like I have my own business and I'm a remote operator of the fleet.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what that means. I don't think they mean a remote operator and I'm operating the vehicle.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Hertz could be a remote operator.
There'd be
It's
a
not
remote,
just Tesla.
but
Like it's
then,
a third party.
but it did say in there that if the remote operator would need to be a licensed driver, that they would need to be trained, that they would and that sometimes the company, well, let's say the owner of the vehicles might not want that third party responsibility, and that there'll be contracts between Tesla and or the owner and or the third parties, making sure that everybody knew who was responsible for the liability at various levels. So all of that suggests that that your remote person has some kind of, if they have to have a driver's license and no recent felonies, I think, or something it said.
I think that just has to do with the nature that to get a car, to have a license plate, to do all that, you need to have a driver's license. So I think it all ties back to look, we'll find out in due time. I will bet you money that nobody's going to be operating these remotely.
All right.
I will bet you whatever you want that nobody's going to be operating these remotely.
And then where are you on the transition? And we've talked about this before, I know, but just a week later, where are you on a transitional period where you would have a supervised driver, but still have the robotaxi, have the cab service with a supervised driver in the car?
I'm starting to think they're not going to do that.
Okay. All right.
I'm changing my thought. I thought for a while that would be kind of the intermediate space, but now I'm thinking that intermediate space will just be FSD supervised or unsupervised. And once you can do FSD unsupervised and you can show that you don't have any issues with all these people just doing their daily drives, what do you need a driver for?
Okay.
Like, I've already proved out the feasibility.
So now your theory would be that there would be a period, 30 days, 60 days, where unsupervised happens, but robotaxi hasn't started. So there'll be a test period of 30, 60, 90, whatever days before the robotaxi thing will be turned on.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get to that step first, right? Just like we had to go from steering wheel nag to
not nag,
no nag to unsupervised to robotaxi.
Right.
I think that's the progression.
So one last thought back on, I don't want to beat it to death, but one last thought would be, what if the remote person, the actual person who could take over, what if that was a requirement in Europe, in China, in Australia, that they were like, nope, we're not going to allow this thing on the streets until we've seen proof that it can, and during that test period, we need a remote, the ability to take over remotely.
Well, so what I'm saying is I think there's a misconception on the latency between. It would be more dangerous to have a remote driver. It is my point of view. I think that the latency between I see something and I'm in Palo Alto and the car's down in San Diego.
Mhm.
I see something happening with the car down in San Diego. I try to do a corrective action from Palo Alto. The latency between that and real world, too late. Things happened. It's not real time. There's lag there. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think I have thought from time to time about the situation where the remote driver, where the car would know fast enough to be able to turn on the remote driver's screen, and the remote driver would then be able to somehow act in some kind of a dangerous situation. But I think you're right. By the time by the time the screen pops on and he figures out
It's
what's
not even
going on.
that. It's not even that. Look right here. When we speak, there's already a lag,
Right,
right? And we're on Zoom, and all we are doing is just talking to each other. That's it,
right, right.
right? So you speak. When I hear it, it's not as if you were right in front of me. There is
A
a
late.
second or two. Exactly. Yeah. We're talking about going from internet to physical control actions out while dealing with, I think I see someone crossing. I think or maybe the coast is clear and I want to move the car forward or backwards. And it's good on my end. But the second I try to move it forward or backwards, oh, someone just walked behind it. But I have so much latency between me and reality that I didn't see that. And now I just hit someone.
Mhm, mhm.
Like, that's a real thing,
Yeah.
right? So,
Okay. So, all right. I think we've probably beaten this one to death. We should continue to contemplate it and have another conversation as we get closer. We cannot do this show without talking about what happened to NVIDIA today. Because obviously Jason Wang, he went on CNBC today, MSNBC, in fact. He went on MSNBC today and said that he is going to vote for Kamala and that he is going to give her $1 billion of I'm playing here because the stock NVIDIA dropped almost 10% today on no news. So the market was down. Market was down. Dow was down 1.5%, 1.5%. Nasdaq was down 3%. NVIDIA was down 9%, almost 10%, and is down more in the after hours. And no, it had nothing to do with the Department of Justice issuing a subpoena saying that they want to talk to them about antitrust, because that didn't happen until after the market was closed, or nearly when the market was closed. So, you know more than
eh,
I do.
I think you are very optimistic.
Oh, I
You
see. You
think that
think,
nobody knew about that.
so you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay.
No, I'm not conspiracy theories. I just know how the world actually works.
Is that, I see.
Randy, is it conspiracy theory if I pay for the Bloomberg terminal, I can find out Tesla's earnings before they come out?
Yeah.
That's not conspiracy theories. That's real. I just don't pay 20 grand a month for it.
Yeah.
But I know that's the thing. That's why I watch 𝐤𝐸𝐾𝐬𝐿, because he pays for the Bloomberg terminal, so I
Uh,
know the earnings before everybody else does. That's a publicly acceptable version of this. Don't tell me you don't think that there's other people that know about these things. But
so,
it's the government. You don't think there's leakage there?
so you think
Come
that,
on.
so you think the Department of Justice thing was responsible for the 9%, 10% drop today, and that and then when NVIDIA started dropping, and it's September 2nd, first day of trading, that the combination is why we saw the market sell off so much.
Don't forget the market was up to start this morning,
Yeah.
right? I mean, not up, but it was
Yeah.
flat, right? Everything was flat, but then Meta jumped up, Tesla jumped up, and all of a sudden this selling starts coming in. Okay, sure. We can all talk about September. We can all say that it's, spooky September, all these
Oh,
things.
so there was some bad numbers. I mean, well, good, bad, yeah, bad
But
number
but
from the
but
ISM and from the S&P. Yeah.
but you would have thought that that would have been bullish for the market, because
Oh,
that
right.
would make people think, "Oh, here comes a 50 basis point cut."
Right. Except that last week, when we had good news about the economy, the market went up. So
Yeah.
I'm giving up on knowing whether bad news is good news or bad news is bad news right now.
So what I'm saying is, okay, maybe 1 or 2% of Nvidia's fall was because of that, but I'm not naive enough to think that no part of that 9-10% drop had to do with people knowing that this was coming before it came.
Okay. So in reading tons of articles about it all day long, everybody thinks that what they think before they knew about the DOJ was that this is people really having a reckoning. And I saw you posting on this, by the way, on X. People finally having a reckoning with this idea that what's happening with AI at NVIDIA is maybe not going to have a fast enough ROI at the user level for the buyers of NVIDIA chips to continue to buy at these levels. I think is that a fair way of saying?
That's what people are saying. That's not
Yeah.
my take.
Okay. You remarked on it, but it's not your.
Yeah, I don't even know what I remarked. If you want to know my opinions, you can just. I've had a pinned post for several months now, where I think there's too much hype in LLMs that I don't see. The ROI is not there for LLMs right now. If anything, it's the opposite, where it's deflationary when it comes to cost of LLMs. But I don't hold that same opinion when it comes to Nvidia specifically.
I see.
My thoughts. So in people buying GPUs from Nvidia will see ROI. Okay. Now, if you're going to associate with GPUs from Nvidia equals LLMs, well, that's because you don't know what's happening. For example, hyperscalers, all right, they can do more with the Nvidia GPU than what they can with traditional Intel or any x86 servers, Intel's base x86,
Right.
or even any ARM based chips. They can do more with GPUs. Think about GPUs so if a CPU is a serial process, a GPU is not just parallel but volumetric as well. So it's parallel operations in volume. Okay. So you can get a lot more efficiency within your data centers. And that's why you saw such a big jump in NVIDIA's data center business, right? It's not just because of all the AI training. It's all of it. So I think that a lot of people are going to see a ROI on the NVIDIA chips and GPUs. I think NVIDIA has more demand than what they know what to do with. I don't see that slowing down. I am just not bullish right now on LLMs as the way to ROI.
I got it. Okay.
I think the way to ROI will be real world autonomy driving, real world AI. I think it'll be using some of these models to be able to do interesting things in genomics and finding cures. I don't think LLMs, I don't think chatbots, I don't think any of that is going to be the way to an ROI, other than maybe a company saves a little bit of cost, so they get a little more. That's it. That's my take, at least for today.
Okay. All right. And so the companies, the hyperscalers again, that are competing with Tesla to buy up these massive numbers of GPUs, will all of them have a great ROI, or will some of them not? Will there be winners and losers?
There's always going to be winners and losers, but here's the thing. Right now, it's an arms race, and you don't want to be left behind. And everybody's going to have to be on a race to modernize. And there's a lot of data centers out there that need to get modern quickly, because the applications of the future are going to need these GPUs to be able to run. Right? Like right now, we see things on the surface, right? We see, it's a perfect analogy, Tesla hardware, right? We now have these new versions of FSD, and people are freaking out about hardware 3. Will it still be relevant? That's what's happening. All these data centers just have CPUs, and all these apps are going to be built in the future are going to be built with these new LLMs, these new AI models, and they're going to need to have the GPUs to be able to run them. And if they don't have it, they're going to be in trouble. So right now, everybody's in a rush and a mad dash to update to their hardware 4 or new data centers so that they can keep up with what's coming.
On that thought, a slight rabbit trail. Do you think that do you think it would cost more than a couple of $1,000s to retrofit a hardware 4 into a hardware 3 vehicle?
Hardware wise, no. Labor wise, yes.
Labor wise, okay.
Yeah. Because you'd have to run some new wiring on some of them.
You'd have to run new wiring. Wow.
Yeah, because hardware 4 has I think an extra camera on don't quote me on this because I don't have a hardware 3 vehicle, but there's I think 3 cameras in the windshield of a hardware 4 vehicle,
Mm.
and we don't know what kind of gauge wiring is used for all the cameras around. They might require more current than what we currently see uh, with existing. So that's probably why you can't just pop on and off. Um, and that I mean, and obviously you got to replace the computers, and that means taking
Right.
apart the whole dash. So yeah, I mean, I don't
3,000.
know. I
3,000.
oh, I don't know. I can't put a number on it. Uh,
I'm just thinking that there's a number which may be totally worth it.
There may be, but it's not in Tesla's best interest to do that.
I see.
I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And I know nobody wants to hear that. But if you're an investor, like, don't think of me, think of the company. And the
Uh-huh.
best thing for the company is to get new sales. It just is. Go get
Yeah.
your Cybertruck, Randy.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to put my Model Y out to work. I want to send it out there to make.
I don't think that'll be an issue.
uh,
I don't think that'll be a problem at all.
I'm really not worried about myself at all. I'm just thinking about the total. I'm a product guy.
Yeah.
Remember? That's what I've spent my whole life doing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the product. How does it work? What is it? What has to be done?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I say that not for you mainly, but for everybody else
Yes.
freaking out about their hardware 3.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
like, look, I get it.
It'll be all
You
right.
paid for something. You thought you were going to get something. But you took a gamble. We all took a gamble. And
And it'll
maybe
be
it does, maybe it doesn't. But yeah, it's going to be okay. Exactly. Like if this all works, that should be irrelevant to your finances.
move to Colorado and get a free car and you'll be fine.
Exactly.
All right. So so now we'll get to your opening statement. I mean, we've gone all this way and we haven't heard your theory about what's going to happen the rest of this week. So you're saying, well, the market was crushed today. Might have been Nvidia's, might have been the Department of Justice, might have been this, might have been that, might have been September 1 or 2 or whatever. Might have been all of the negative news on manufacturing that came out this morning. Construction was also not very good. That was negative. We've got lots of news the next 3 days that could be throwing things for more loops between employment, more manufacturing numbers, productivity, all kinds of things coming. So why do you think we're going to just blow it up by the end of the week?
I mean, okay, blow it up isn't
Okay,
exactly
all right,
how
all right.
I would phrase it.
Are we going to completely recover? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, all right. Well, look, let's just call a spade a spade. When was the last time we saw a sell off like this and not saw a V-shaped recovery?
Oh, okay.
In the last year, when was the last time? Hasn't happened.
Well, what we had was a few weeks ago, Randy called it exactly. We had a 10% sell-off on the S&P and a 20% sell-off on the NASDAQ. And I'm saying it may not have been enough, or we just may need to do it again, especially going into an election season. Had a couple of folks this morning agreeing with me, 7 to 10% S&P sell-off. So whether it's this week, or whether it's over the course of the month, or even over the course of the next 2 months, at some point, I think the S&P is just way out there too far, needs to have a sell-off, and to your point, and then we'll see a recovery.
Yeah, I think the correction we had was a one-off event that we all know about.
Something about Japan, I forget.
Yeah. I think, and that was a quick recovery from that.
Yep.
I just think this is a fake out. I really do. I don't think this is real. I think everybody thinks this is going to happen, and it's going to be retail investors holding the bag. It's just what I think. Look, everybody's saying what you're saying. You have Tom Lee, you have
There's hardly
CNBC.
anybody saying what I'm saying. There's only a few people that think we're going to have oh no, I read these headlines. I read every headline.
It's all they talked about today on CNBC's.
Well,
everything
after the fact, I'm talking about last week and this morning before the fact, nobody was talking about a reset of the S&P. Although, again, September, October are, well, no, because August, September are the two worst months of the season. Yeah.
But I could play that game with you all day too, is a thing. Because I can say, except in an election year. In election
Right.
year, Septembers are
They're
pretty
October.
strong. So it's like you can do this all day long.
Right.
All I'm saying is, let's just look at the reality. When was the last time we had a September in an election year where we're about to have a rate cut? And by the way, the GDP is at like 3%. Like, when was the last time that happened? All right. Well, so these past looking trends or history, look, they're interesting. They're great for talking about what has happened, but I don't think they're ever pertinent to the future. I really
They're
don't.
pertinent. Come on now, they're pertinent. So if you're going to do an odds, if you're an odds maker, in fact, we're all odds makers especially if we're in and out of the market, if we're playing it at all. So if you're an odds maker, well, you want to have as much information going into that prediction that you can possibly have. And some of those issues are fulfilling, like the technical analyst. I mean, part of that's self-fulfilling because you got 27,000 analysts who believe the stock market's not going to be able to get over 300. And sure enough, you get to 299 and those guys all get out of the market. Well, that's, a self-fulfilling kind of prophecy. So, some of these things people say, well, September's a terrible month. Well, okay, I'm going to trim in September because I think it's a terrible month. So you have that going on.
Yeah. Okay. Then what happened to sell in May and go away? Well, that would have been the biggest mistake you ever did.
Every rule is only a rule by the exception, right?
That's my point.
That's your
That's
point.
my whole point.
There's always exceptions. And if you can win, if you can beat those, if you can be ahead on those exceptions, obviously you can make a lot of money. Randy's rule number one. Randy's rule number one is if it gets out there too far, you're going to have a correction. and Randy's rule, I think, works out the best overall because you almost never see it fail. Yes, there's the occasional time when it gets way out there and then it doesn't have a correction, but not very often. So I'm still going to be the guy who says 10% correction, maybe a 20% on the S&P, and that nobody will even be that sad because they've made so much money in the last 20 months that they're going to be like, oh, well, 20%, shoot, I can live with that.
So wait, so you're saying it's a 10% drop from now?
Well, 10% counting today.
Okay, and you're talking about the S&P?
S&P.
So you're saying another 8% drop?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
I didn't say this week. I said we're going to have a 10% drop and then we'll recover. And by the end of the year, we will be back to these levels. I don't know if we'll be higher than this at this point, but we'll be back to these levels by the end of the year. Whoever wins, doesn't even matter.
I bet you I bet you that we make almost all of this up tomorrow.
Make it all up tomorrow. Wow. Okay.
Most of it, at least.
Hey, I wouldn't even argue that. We could make that up tomorrow and then still be down look at what happened last week. Every day no, that was 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, like every day it was like, well, vertical. So yes, you could have a huge improvement tomorrow and then have it go down on Wednesday on Thursday because ADP comes out and the ADP numbers are much worse than expected or much better than expected or, some combination of above. Or tomorrow the beige book comes out and it's much worse or better than what people are expecting.
Job numbers, I think, will be a nothing burger. I think they're gonna not create any noise. I think we're gonna go into a Fed rate cut. It's probably gonna be 25 basis points. I think everything's gonna go smooth, and we're gonna see further evidence that we have a soft landing. That we're gonna go into the debate. I don't know. I don't see this September being this doomsday September, and the fact that I keep hearing. I mean, just go on YouTube. If you just go into my YouTube feed, it's all just fear porn about the market. That's all it is, all over. about September, why you shouldn't be in September, and all this stuff. And I'm a contrarian. If I
Oh
see
yeah.
everybody's doing something, I think it's the opposite.
Well, I don't, yeah, so that's what I keep telling you. I'm a contrarian too. That's why you and I usually agree. But I think that as of Friday, everybody thought the market is going to the moon, the economy is fine. And then all of a sudden you have one day and everybody's like, oh, the economy's in trouble. And now the market's going to crash. And I mean, so I don't like to make my decisions based on one data point. But I think a lot of people, that's what we've seen. And I think that's why the VIX is back up to 20, almost 21 this afternoon,
Yeah.
is people are like, oh my gosh, we've got all this volatility because every time another stat comes out, we get this crazy, market moving in big amounts in various directions. And this week and next week are going to be those kind of weeks. And then the week after that, we got the Fed. What if the Fed? What if we're both? Well, I'm saying, okay, Larry thinks that the jobs number will go up two more points. So he thinks it'll go up to 4.5 from 4.3. Now that would be like maybe a 50 point. Maybe at that point you need a 50 basis point cut. I'm thinking it might shrink back down to 4.2. And
Yeah, I think you're more right.
okay, and if it drops to 4.2 or 4.1, maybe the Fed doesn't move.
Look, I love Larry, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna be having dinner soon when he comes to Florida. But he also thought he wasn't gonna be voting for Trump, and pretty sure he's gonna be voting for Trump.
Oh, he
So,
said so. He said as much. He said as much.
not at the beginning of the year, he didn't.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I was actually shocked. I thought he was always in the camp until I found out.
I did too. Yeah,
All
that
right,
was shocking to me.
let's go over the actual details very quickly here. Dow was down 626. Here's the big one. NASDAQ was down 577. S&P down 119. Tesla was down $3.51. And all of the Mag 7 and all of the, no, not all the Cathie Woods. Two of the Cathie Woods were up 0 in one case, so not up, just green, and 21 cents on the other case. So everything down today, those percentages would be 1.51 on the Dow, NASDAQ 3.26, and the S&P down 2.12. And Tesla obviously had so much good news this morning that it tried to stay up. It really tried all day to stay green, but it was eventually pulled down by the rest of the market action. I was just looking at these side by side too to see if there's any evidence of what moved first. And basically, oh, I remember now. It was the Dow that moved first. Well, no, Dow
No,
down the
NASDAQ
NASDAQ
did.
moved. The Dow moved down more vertically, and then the NASDAQ caught up and went ahead. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So
And
I will say something again, and take everything with a grain of salt, not financial advice. But if anybody goes onto my X page, you can see my handle there at Nick Gibbs IAG. You don't need to follow me or anything like that. But just look at what I
please do.
reposted. You can look at what I reposted. This is it's the last repost I had about an hour ago. Peter DiCarlo. Peter DiCarlo, I actually did an interview with him. I think it's the last like real video I did on YouTube. Highly recommend you check it out. This kid's amazing. I call him a kid. He's older than me, but he had kind of a crazy upbringing. It's a wild story, but long and the short, he is now kind of a trader, a stock trader, day trader. He is so successful. I would argue he's been more accurate on things than Tom Lee has been. He's
Wow.
extremely successful. He loves Tesla, has a Cybertruck, but that's not why you should listen to him. You should listen to him because I have a philosophy to listen to people who are right a lot.
Yeah.
Peter DiCarlo is right a lot, like a crazy amount. Like I don't believe in like day trading much. I don't believe in technical analysis. I don't believe in any of that personally, uh, because it's never worked for me. I don't get it, but it's worked for him, and he's been right a lot. And what he was saying, or what he said was, and he's got a video on it, saying Tesla's down after hours, but bullish break of structure was confirmed on the 4 hour. 80% of the time, price will push into higher highs.
Mm.
So this is, and he talks about all this all constantly, how this is what Wall Street will do. They will intentionally
Ah,
make these moves. They're not orchestrated, but they're orchestrated
yeah,
moves. They
yeah,
work in line. They have information you don't. Small examples, the Bloomberg terminal, right?
right.
And it leaves retail investors selling out. And guess who gets to come in at the right after summer's over, their first day back? Oh, guess what's going to happen? We kind of clear house. Everyone sells off. Oh, look at these deals that we have now that we can start going as Wall Street and start eating. Um, he doesn't talk about that, but he talks about Tesla. Anyways, I'm just saying there's something happening here. I think there's a lot of upside for Tesla. So this is one day in the market. I don't know. Just don't get sucked into any fake outs. Is all I'm saying. Think
Okay.
long term.
All right. And Tesla is now down 1.21, $1.21 in after hours, just before after hours ends. So now let's go take a look at the bonds. The bonds, refresh. Come on. You got the bond. There we go. So 10-year down another 0.7 of a basis point in the pre-market at 3.837. The 2-year down 1.9 basis points. But those are still now, we're still back to 3 basis points between them. So it was down to 1. I was sitting there watching it for a while, hoping it was going to reinvert, but it didn't. Anyway, so we're very close to reinverting on that. And who knows on the 2-month, I've given up understanding the 2-month. It's up 2.2 basis points. I've totally given up on that one. Don't know how to read it. Any thoughts on any of that?
Um, no real thoughts. I'd be curious. What are your thoughts happens with housing when the Fed starts to cut?
Okay, so in fact, my real estate guy, by the way, if you need a mortgage lender, down below in my information down below, Bill Rayman. He's the only person that I recommend, that I talk about, that I recommend for stuff. Bill Rayman is amazing. He's a top 1%er in the country. And he and I had a very long discussion yesterday about where the markets are and where we think they're going. So I'll give you the brief synopsis. Number one, mortgage interest rates have probably already come down most of what they're going to come down, because once the Fed starts cutting, the Treasury has already predicted that. The Treasuries have already predicted that. The mortgage industry has already predicted that. And so if you look back over history, the mortgage rates may not come down that much more over the next 3 to 6 months. But when we get past those first 3 or 4 cuts, then they'll start to predict the next cuts, and you'll see the mortgages start coming down again, just in time for the spring season. Normally between now and March is the slow season for, not now, it's really like October 15th and March 15th. That's usually the slow season. Last year, it was crazy, very high sales over the winter months. And that, of course, created a boom bust. So you saw very low sales in the summer. I don't think it had anything to do with interest rates being up. But what Bill's seeing right now, he's saying his clients are saying, I'm going to wait until the rate cut. I'm going to wait till the rate cut. I'm going to wait. So they're in a holding pattern. They don't want to move too soon. They want to get that last 0.25% or whatever it is. So that's what I'm seeing. I think you'll see housing prices continue to be high. You might see the normal slight reduction in housing prices over the winter again, as usual, especially if there's not a lot of mortgage reductions at this point. And then next year, I think it'll be a bonkers year for everybody in real estate. Prices up, interest rates down, lots and lots of selling, lots and lots of people, lots of action. That's my theory.
Okay, then we're aligned on that. Um, uh, I was chatting with a few people who were on X over the weekend, and they were just sitting there thinking, oh, housing prices are going to start to come down as rate cuts. And to me, it's like, this is
No,
not cogent.
no.
Like it, we have what, like 5 million housing shortage.
Yes.
And to think that if the rates come down, that there's going to be less buyers. And the logic that kept getting presented to me was, well, people will be willing to sell their current house because rates will come down. And my whole point to them was like, yeah, sure. but then they have to go buy something
Yes,
else.
yes, right. Yes. It's, no,
So
there
it's
will, and we're a long way away from those people with the 2 and 3% interest rates putting their houses on the market. Not when
yeah,
you're still sitting at 6.5, no, 6.25, 6.3. No, people are not even close to putting those 3% mortgages or getting rid of those 3% mortgages. Most of the people that I know, if they wanted to move out of that house, they put it up for rent.
yeah.
Which
Well,
is what,
and so what I told all, friends and family, anybody in my circle, if they ask, I don't ever
yeah.
give any of these thoughts unsolicited, but I tell them, if you have real estate, hold on to it. Don't get rid of it. And if you're looking to buy yesterday, because it's not going to get easier. It's not going to get less competitive. And I do not think it's going to get cheaper.
Start selling your real estate about 2040.
Yeah. 2040.
2040, because 2045 is when we'll hit peak population worldwide. And now you'll start to see the worldwide population going down. So it'll even be hard for the United States to immigrate enough people to increase the population in the US. So somewhere around 2040 is probably a good time to sell your real estate. I will be in heaven with Jesus, but that's okay.
I don't know. I think you'll be around.
Who knows? We'll see. All right. Oil down 0.07 in the pre-market. That's Texas Intermediate. Brent is unchanged, but we're looking at $70.27. We're about to have a 6 handle. This is being caused by two things. Number one, the OPEC group has said they're going to increase production starting in October, and we already have enough oil in the United States, and China is sucking. They're not doing well right now. So they're using less oil. So those combinations have created a very big drop in the oil prices. And apparently the Saudis and the other OPEC members are going, it won't do any good to cut production more because the prices still won't go up.
Yes. And do not miss what this means for inflation and rate cuts.
Right.
This right here will be the biggest indicator of how fast rates get cut. And looking at this, rates are going to get cut faster than people. It'll happen faster than people think, and that's bullish for a lot of people who are in the market and already have real estate. But for those who aren't, it just gets tougher. It just does. Things get more expensive. Pay wages aren't going up. Like it just gets tougher.
Right. Natural gas went up quite nicely today, about 2%, and is going up another 0.09 in the pre-market, sitting at $2.20. For those, I know that this seems like an arcane item, but I keep wanting to comment on it. The oil producers want natural gas to be at around $2.25 or more, because that's where they can sell off the gas that they're producing. That otherwise, if it gets too much under that, it doesn't even make sense for them to collect it. So it's like, they're in the sweet spot. And so when you're looking at natural gas, that's always something to take into consideration. Gold, $2.52, 2005-20, I'm sorry, up to 10 in the pre-market. So still about 30 points off of its all-time high. Silver up 0.22. It took a big beating earlier today, but it's now picked some of that back up at 28, I'm sorry, 28.40. And copper barely down, sitting at $4 and almost 10 cents, $4.91. So any thoughts on any of that? Commodities I read today, took a quick look at commodities, been pretty flat for the past month, roughly flat.
Yeah, I don't have really anything on that, but if you will permit me to share my screen real quick, I
Oh,
will share with you a little breaking news.
a
That's
little
kind of
breaking
exciting.
news. Whoops, I just hit
Yeah.
the wrong,
Well,
I hit the wrong thing to get
you
you
sure did.
I'm sharing something that nobody wants to see. I need to stop sharing. That'd be a good place to
Mm.
start. Now let me see if I can get you available. There we go. Now we can do it.
All right, this
Breaking
will just be
news.
2 seconds.
Sure.
Quick 2 seconds. Here we go, and you should be able to see this.
We do.
And let me see if I can zoom in. You can read what. Oh, can you see it?
Yeah. Wide release next week. Smart
So
Summit Wide release next week.
So that's exciting.
Yes,
So
it's very cool.
one way or another.
That's right. All right, we got Bitcoin down 756 at 57,704. It's trying to hit its recent low. It's working on it. And then on the equities, we've got the Dow down 15 or 0.04, S&P down 7 or 0.13, NASDAQ down 38.75 or 0.20. So not much follow through right now, at least on the equities in terms of tomorrow. We'll see what happens in the morning. So last thoughts.
Yeah, my last thoughts is it's an election year. I don't think we're gonna have a bad September. I love the betting odds right now, the way they're looking. I don't know if you've seen them.
Oh yeah,
they're looking really good.
For our candidate.
I'm nonpartisan over here, Randy. I just say that I like the way they look. Also, we got football, NFL starting up here.
Starting
Wednesday, so
Thursday, right? Yeah.
Thursday. Yep. So it's
all
I think
good
the markets are going to comply. The markets are going to comply, right? So be optimistic.
All right, you've got it. You know me. I try to be that way well, I don't even try. It's unfortunately it's in the DNA. Can't even stop it when I want to. So there you go. Thanks so much for coming on. For those of you who, I'll put a card up here for my earlier conversation with Brian White, where we did talk extensively about 1010 and about what he thinks is going to happen on 1010, and also some of his imagination, as we just did, imaginations about what that might look like on a backlot. So there you go. Thank you, as always, Nick, for coming on Tuesday night. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.